My name is Adrian, and for the past 7 years, I've been a part of Grayson and Hart, one of those big corporations that everyone pretends to respect but secretly hates. It's not just any company, it's the company in our city, the kind people dream about working for because it looks so shiny on paper. To say I worked hard to get here would be an understatement. I clawed my way up from intern to senior project manager, sacrificing weekends, holidays, even relationships along the way. And let me tell you, being at the top isn't all it's cracked up to be. The higher you climb, the more enemies you make. But none of that mattered to me, not really. What mattered was proving myself. My dad always said I had something to prove, though he never told me who exactly I was trying to convince. Maybe him, maybe myself. Either way, I poured everything into this job. So when Monday morning rolled around like any other day, with its usual flurry of emails and meetings, I had no idea what was waiting for me behind closed doors. I walked into the office feeling, okay, actually, I felt great. Weirdly great, considering how stressful Mondays usually are. Over the weekend, I'd wrapped up a major campaign presentation, a months-long project that I knew would blow everyone out of the water. The client loved it. My team nailed every detail, and deep down, I allowed myself a moment of pride. This could finally be the thing that got me noticed by the executive board. Promotion season was coming, and if there was ever a time to shine, this was it. Grayson and Hart buzzed as usual when I stepped off the elevator onto the 10th floor. People rushed past me clutching coffees and tablets, barely acknowledging each other. That's just how we operated. Heads down, focused, competitive. As I headed toward my desk, I caught snippets of conversation. Someone griping about last-minute changes, another bragging about their weekend plans. Nothing unusual. Then came the email notification blinking on my phone. From Marcus Hale, the VP of Operations. Subject line: urgent meeting, 9 a.m. My stomach dropped. Urgent meetings were never good news. Still, I tried to shake it off. Maybe it was about the presentation. Or maybe Marcus wanted feedback on some new initiative. Whatever it was, I figured I'd find out soon enough. At exactly 9 o'clock, I knocked on Marcus's door. He didn't look up right away. He was too busy typing furiously on his laptop. His office smelled faintly of leather and coffee, which somehow made the tension worse. Finally, he gestured for me to sit without saying a word. When he finally looked at me, his expression was unreadable. "Adrian," he began, leaning back in his chair. "You've done excellent work here over the years. Truly exceptional. Okay, now I was nervous. Compliments like that only came before bad news. But," he continued, folding his hands on the desk, "due to restructuring within the company, your position has been eliminated effective immediately." The room tilted slightly. For a second, I thought I hadn't heard him correctly. "What do you mean, eliminated?" I asked, my voice steadier than I expected. He sighed, looking almost sympathetic. "Almost. It means your role no longer exists. We're streamlining operations, consolidating teams. Your responsibilities will be distributed among existing staff." "That doesn't make sense," I shot back. "I just finished leading a multi-million-dollar campaign. You can't eliminate my position after that." "I'm sorry, Adrian," he said, standing up. "There's nothing I can do. HR will reach out to discuss severance packages and next steps." And just like that, I was dismissed. No negotiation. No explanation beyond corporate jargon. Just gone. Walking back to my desk felt surreal. My legs moved automatically, but my mind raced. How could this happen? After everything I'd given this company, they were throwing me away like yesterday's trash. Colleagues glanced at me curiously, probably wondering why I wasn't at my usual meeting or glued to my computer screen. None of them knew yet. None of them cared. By noon, word spread. Of course it did. Gossip traveled faster than light in this place. Some coworkers offered awkward condolences, sorry to hear about your role, while others avoided eye contact altogether. A few smirked, clearly thrilled that someone else had fallen victim to the corporate chopping block. I spent most of the afternoon packing up my things, or pretending to. Truthfully, I couldn't focus. Every item I touched reminded me of something. The framed photo of my mom and me at graduation, the stress ball shaped like a globe, the sticky notes covered in reminders and doodles. Each one felt like a piece of me being stripped away. Around 4 o'clock, my phone rang. It was HR. They wanted me to come in for a meeting first thing tomorrow morning to discuss transition logistics. Translation: sign papers, take your severance check, and leave quietly. 6 hours later, my phone rang again. But this time, it wasn't HR calling to schedule a meeting. It was HR screaming. "What do you mean she's gone?" The voice on the other end screeched, so loudly I had to pull the phone away from my ear. It was Candace Miller, the head of human resources. Normally polished and unflappable, she sounded unhinged. "What's going on?" I asked cautiously, gripping the phone tighter. Candace took a shaky breath before launching into a tirade. "Marcus Hale just informed us that he terminated you earlier today. Do you have any idea what kind of mess this is? There's no documentation, no approval from upper management, nothing. He acted completely outside protocol." I blinked, processing her words. "Wait, you didn't know?" "No, we didn't know," she snapped. "And now half the department is panicking because apparently your projects are critical to Q4 goals. Not to mention, legal is already breathing down our necks about potential wrongful termination claims." Her anger should have made me feel vindicated, but instead, it left me cold. If HR was freaking out, then Marcus's decision wasn't just rash, it was reckless. Which begged the question, why? Before I could respond, Candace interrupted me. "Look, we need you back in the office tomorrow. First thing. Don't talk to anyone until then, especially not Marcus." "Understood." "Understood," I replied, though my mind was spinning. This wasn't just about losing my job anymore. Something bigger was happening here, and suddenly, I found myself smack in the middle of it. The next morning, I arrived at Grayson and Hart early. The building felt eerily quiet, like it was holding its breath. When I reached HR, Candace greeted me with a tight smile and ushered me into a conference room. Papers were scattered across the table, along with several empty coffee cups. Clearly, they'd been up all night dealing with this mess. "Here's the situation," Candace started, cutting straight to the point. "Marcus made a unilateral decision to terminate you without consulting anyone, not me, not legal, not even the CEO. It's unprecedented, and frankly, it's unacceptable. So what happens now?" I asked, trying to keep my tone neutral despite the storm of emotions swirling inside me. "That depends," she said, crossing her arms. "We want to reinstate you, obviously, but we need to understand what prompted Marcus to act this way. Did he give you any indication why he wanted to eliminate your position?" I hesitated. Up until now, I'd assumed it was just standard corporate politics, cutting costs, making room for younger hires, whatever excuse they used to justify getting rid of seasoned employees. But hearing Candace talk, I realized there might be more to it. "He mentioned restructuring," I said slowly, but honestly, it felt personal, like he was targeting me specifically. Candace raised an eyebrow. "Interesting, because according to our records, your performance reviews have been stellar. In fact, you're one of the highest performing managers in the division. Then why would he do this?" I pressed. She leaned forward, lowering her voice. "That's what we're trying to figure out. And frankly, Adrian, we think you might hold the key." Over the next hour, Candace filled me in on details I'd never known. Apparently, Marcus had been under scrutiny for months due to questionable decisions and mounting complaints from his subordinates. Rumors swirled about mismanagement, favoritism, even embezzlement. Until now, nothing had stuck, but terminating a high-profile employee without cause? That was the kind of mistake that could bring him down. As I listened, pieces began falling into place. Marcus had always been difficult to work with, demanding perfection while micromanaging every detail. But lately, his behavior had escalated. He nitpicked minor errors, undermined my authority in front of clients, and outright ignored my suggestions during meetings. At the time, I chalked it up to stress or personality clashes. Now I wasn't so sure. "You think he's covering something up?" I said finally. Candace nodded. "We don't know what yet, but if we're right, and if you're willing to help us, we might be able to expose it." The weight of her words settled over me. This wasn't just about revenge or salvaging my career anymore. It was about justice, for myself, for my colleagues, for everyone who'd suffered under Marcus's leadership. But exposing corruption at Grayson and Hart wouldn't be easy. This was a company built on secrets, where loyalty often outweighed ethics. If I agreed to play along, I'd be walking a dangerous line. One wrong move, and I could lose everything. Still, as I sat there weighing my options, one thing became clear. I wasn't ready to walk away. "Not yet. Tell me what you need me to do," I said, my voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through me. Candace smiled, a real one this time. "Good. Let's get to work." Over the next few days, I became a reluctant detective in my own life. Candace and her team briefed me on their suspicions about Marcus, discrepancies in budget reports, sudden firings of key employees who had challenged him, and rumors of inflated expense claims that disappeared into thin air. It was all circumstantial, but it painted a picture of someone desperate to protect something, or someone. My role in this plan wasn't glamorous. They wanted me to act as bait. The idea was simple yet risky. returned to work under the guise of being reinstated while quietly gathering evidence against Marcus. HR would handle the official investigation, but they needed someone on the inside, someone Marcus already saw as expendable, to dig deeper without raising suspicion. That someone was me. I hated the thought of going back to Grayson and Hart after everything that had happened. But there was also a part of me, a stubborn, fiery part, that couldn't resist the challenge. This wasn't just about proving myself anymore. It was about dismantling the toxic system that had chewed me up and spat me out. If I succeeded, maybe I could make things better for everyone still trapped in its gears. The first day back felt surreal. Word spread quickly that I'd been reinstated, though no one seemed to know why. Some coworkers congratulated me awkwardly, while others whispered behind my back, speculating whether I'd struck some secret deal with upper management. Marcus, on the other hand, looked like he'd swallowed a lemon when he saw me walking through the office doors. "Adrian," he said stiffly, intercepting me near the coffee machine. "I assume HR explained the situation." "They did," I replied coolly, meeting his gaze. "Though I'm still not entirely sure what prompted your decision last week." His jaw tightened. "It was a mistake. Miscommunication. These things happen." "Sure," I said, letting the word hang between us. "But don't worry. I'm here to help however I can." He forced a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Glad to hear it." As I walked away, I could feel his stare burning into my back. Whatever game Marcus was playing, he clearly hadn't expected me to come back stronger. And honestly, neither had I. Over the next 2 weeks, I played my part carefully. On the surface, I acted like nothing had changed, throwing myself into projects and meetings with the same intensity as before. Beneath the facade, however, I was watching everything, and everyone, closely. I started cross-referencing old project budgets with current ones, flagging inconsistencies and documenting every interaction where Marcus overstepped or contradicted himself. Slowly but surely, a pattern emerged. One evening, after most of the office had cleared out, I stayed late to review files in the shared drive. That's when I found it, a folder labeled Confidential MH. My pulse quickened as I opened it, revealing a series of emails between Marcus and an external consultant. At first glance, they seemed innocuous, discussions about cost-cutting strategies and efficiency metrics. But buried within the thread was a bombshell, a proposal to outsource nearly half of our department's operations to a third-party firm owned by Marcus's brother-in-law. It was textbook corruption, a scheme to funnel company funds into personal pockets under the guise of streamlining. And if the numbers were accurate, the impact would be devastating. Dozens of jobs lost, years of institutional knowledge erased, all for Marcus's financial gain. I forwarded the emails to Candace immediately, along with notes detailing how they tied into other anomalies I'd uncovered. Within hours, she called me into her office. "This is it," she said, her voice trembling with barely contained excitement. "This is enough to take him down. But will it stick?" I asked, unable to shake the nagging doubt. "Marcus has connections. He's slippery. What if he finds a way to wriggle out of this?" Candace leaned forward, her expression fierce. "Then we'll make damn sure he doesn't get the chance. Trust me, Adrian, we're done playing nice." The fallout came swiftly. Armed with irrefutable evidence, Grayson and Hart launched a formal investigation into Marcus's conduct. Within days, whispers turned into headlines as news of the scandal leaked to the press. Employees who had once feared speaking out began coming forward with their own stories of intimidation and misconduct. By the end of the week, Marcus Hale was gone, fired in disgrace, and facing criminal charges for fraud and embezzlement. In the aftermath, the company underwent a massive overhaul. New leadership stepped in, promising transparency and accountability. Layoffs were reversed, projects restored, and morale slowly began to improve. For the first time in years, Grayson and Hart felt less like a battlefield and more like a workplace. As for me, I didn't stay long enough to see the full transformation. After everything that had happened, I realized I needed a change, not just from the company, but from the version of myself that had sacrificed so much for it. With Candace's recommendation, I landed a position at a smaller firm focused on sustainability initiatives. It paid less than my old job, but it gave me something far more valuable: purpose. On my last day at Grayson and Hart, I stood in the empty hallway outside my old office, taking one final look around. The space felt foreign now, stripped of its power to intimidate or define me. I smiled softly, feeling lighter than I had in years. "Goodbye, Grayson and Hart," I murmured. "Thanks for the lessons, but I'm done learning from you." And with that, I turned and walked away, ready to start a new chapter on my own terms. Months later, life at the new firm was everything I'd hoped for and more. The work was meaningful, the people genuine, and the culture refreshingly collaborative. Gone were the days of toxic politics and soul-crushing competition. Instead, I found myself surrounded by colleagues who valued creativity, integrity, and balance, qualities that had once felt like distant dreams. One Friday afternoon, as I packed up my things to leave early for a weekend hike, Candace called me out of the blue. It had been months since we'd spoken, but her voice sounded as sharp and warm as ever. "Adrian," she said with a laugh, "I just wanted to check in. How's the brave new world treating you?" "It's incredible," I admitted, smiling into the phone. "For the first time, I feel like I'm making an impact, not just on spreadsheets, but on actual lives." She chuckled. "Well, you earned it. And hey, word on the street is they're thinking about promoting you already." My heart skipped a beat. "Really? That's soon?" "You've got this, Adrian," she said firmly. "You always have." After we hung up, I sat there for a moment, letting her words sink in. For so long, I defined my worth by titles and paychecks, chasing validation in places where it never truly existed. But now, standing on solid ground for the first time in years, I realized something profound. Success wasn't about climbing ladders, it was about building bridges. That evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon during my hike, I paused to take it all in, the crisp air, the quiet beauty of nature, and the overwhelming sense of peace I hadn't known I needed. Somewhere along the way, I'd stopped running and started living. And for the first time in my life, I felt whole.